Yay! It's Sunday, the 10th of August, and that means it's time for a Stashcast. Doo-doo-doo! Hurrah! So, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Aradia Noir, your resident witch and creatrix over to Radia's Hand and Danae's Divine, where I create myth, magic, and meaning for your everyday life through art, intuition, and energy work. And on Sundays, I like to do a little thing called a Stashcast. So, oh my goodness. The Stashcast is just me sharing stash. Stash is usually materials. Beads, buttons, fabric, yarn, thread, paint, etc. Though not always. For me, it also includes tools. Why? Because I'm a size queen and I need all the tools. I need all the sets and I need all the colors because I need them. Or I might die. I don't know. Maybe. So, I wanted to talk to you about my double-pointed needles. Heads up, next week we're going to cover briefly all of them, but as you've seen for the last couple of weeks, I've been trying to cover certain segments only because not all knitted needles are created equal and everybody's got a preference. So, without further ado, but hold that thought. So, part of the reason for me also sharing Stashcast is so you can get a look behind the scenes, see what I use, why I use it, how I feel about it, what made me choose this material or object or whatever. And while these are not reviews, you are always welcome to ask questions about anything that I am talking about. So, and that's because I probably have used it for a while. And so I have words about it. So, without further ado, for real this time, what we got? Double-pointed needles. So named because I have 2 points. I've got one more set of double-pointed needles, which you will see from, I think, an art haul that I did or plan to do. I don't know if I've done it yet. I know I've taken the pictures from it. And that's just because it's in a case, like with all the other ones right now. Actually, it's in a case with all my sock needles, and yeah. These would be in there too, but these came in a handy case of their own, and it just didn't make sense to take them out, since they're not otherwise marked. And I will never be able to figure out which ones they are once I take them out. So we're not gonna put myself through that travesty. Because that's not very nice. That being said, obviously they're knitting needles. They're used for knitting. But like I said earlier, not all knitting needles are created equal. Double pointeds are usually one of the last needles that people come to. Some people come to them before circulars, but a lot of people hit double pointeds after they hit circulars, just because circulars are, I feel like circulars are a little easier to come by, and when you start the kind of things that you start making, you know, you start with scarves and blankets and stuff like that, you know, oversized rectangles or squares. Some people start with shawls. Circulars are really good for shawls, but double pointeds are like, some people like them, some people don't. So, these are commonly used when you have circulars where it's something too small, in the place of using magic loop. So, that's another thing. Magic loop is usually done with a really long cabled needle, like 40 inches plus. Technically, you could manage it with 36, but, you know, it's really just easier with 40 inches. It's the only time anybody's ever said that. That sounds wrong. But seriously, yeah, the magic loop is like a game changer. It lets you do things 2 at a time, like 2 sleeves, 2 socks, 2 arm warmers. Technically, you could do 2 hats. I don't know why you would do that. But you could also just do 1 hat, because you can work really small things that standard circular is not going to let you do. Standard being the normal sizes you see. But this is not what we're talking about. So, double pointeds. So named because there's points on 2 ends. It's only 2 ends because it's a straight line, right? Just really having it at. Blah, 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 blah. So hats, socks, These are really common with anything that's small in the round. These are good for. And the only real problem is, okay, so we'll take one out. Some people find working with them, they're a little bit fiddly. Now, these are really small. These aren't necessarily the ones you're going to commonly use, because these are actually for socks, and this is why they're so small. But if you're a loose knitter and you're working away, right, and you put it down, there's no end, so the stitches can slip off. And that's if you're using them like you would use a set of straights. So a lot of people don't like that. Usually you're using them in a set. A lot of sets are 4 or 5. I prefer a set of 5. I don't know, having that like extra needle is just easier for me personally. Some sets do not come in anything but 4 though, and 4 is fine, it'll work. These come in sets of 5, so I dig them. Also pretty, so yeah, I believe in having nice tools and pretty tools, because why work with something you hate? That's ridiculous. But like, yeah, the whole fiddly thing is usually when you're starting off, you've got like a one or 2 or 3 rows of rounds. I mean, you really could work either way, but it's more fiddly when it's in the round. And so you've got this little bit of fabric, there's no stability, and for some people that like makes them really nervous and they don't like it. They're also, another use of these is I-cords. Let's put that in there because I forgot. Oops. I'm pretty sure that I-cords, I think you always have to use a double-pointed needle with them, because you work across the needle and then you slide it to the other end, and then you work and then you slide it to the other end. So you're making a tube without turning the work, so to speak. Turning, going, flipping over. And I think that's like it's like the one instance where you would make something tubular and only use 2 needles. Theoretically, you could do that. No, it really needs to be an I-cord. You could work something tubular with 2 needles. I just have a third that's the working needle, but it's really easier to have 3. It gets really fussy between the needles when you do that. So like the end of one needle and the beginning of another, you have to worry about ladders or gaps in your knitting. And the way to fix that is to just pull those areas really tight, and some of these new knitters may be not so good at that. So that's the whole thing. But again, fiddly. I think so for me, I will use them in places of straights when I just want to kind of swatch something out. Now, let me just clarify here. When you swatch something, you should use the needle that you're going to use for the project. You should not swatch with one needle and then go use another one. Even if it's the same size. That's not how that works. That's a bad idea. Why is it a bad idea? Because not all needles are created equal. And that, if you want to see, because I'm sure it's easy to say, that's ridiculous. You know, this size is this size is this size. No. Get a bunch of needles that are the same size, buy different makers, different materials, and do swatches in each of them. And all the swatches will not be exactly the same, even if you do them like in succession, because you hold things differently. People respond better or worse to certain materials. Certain sizes or certain materials are harder for some people to work. Some are better suited for certain yarns. And so like that, like these are all factors that fucking matter. Because I'm a nerd and I know these things. Trust me. I'm an expert, sort of. I'm knowledgeable. That's a better way to put it, probably. But I like to use them in place of straights. So if I just kind of want to whip something up, so I have a general idea of what the colorway works out, like the striping pattern or the color gradient, sure. Which is, you know, just me piddling around. If I just want to see how the yarn in general behaves, but I'm not necessarily swatching, I'll use my double pointed, partially because I just grab two, and they're short. These are 6-inch. I've got some. These are 8-inch. I prefer 8 inches. I think I have seen 10-inch ones. 10-inch double pointed start to get a little unyieldy. Usually 6 and 8 is what you're going to see. You will every now and then you'll see shorts, which are I think 3 or 4 inches long, which are just, that's too short. But a lot of people like this for socks and stuff like that. So there will be that. Because I knit tightly enough, I don't worry about my needles falling off. And before I learned magic lube, these were kind of my go-to when I was working in the round. Because when it comes down to finishing a hat, or if you're going to make something small like sleeves or a sock, yeah, it's the whole 16-inch thing. Like, you can make a hat with a 16-inch circular needle, but I haven't been able to manage it yet. So it's just, I can't quite deal with that. Like, if it was like maybe 18 inches, like, I could manage it, but 16 is just a little too short. I don't know. I can't manage it. Somebody else, I mean, I've seen other people do it, and fucking witchcraft. Okay, like, really, seriously. I don't understand it. But yeah, before I learned magic loop, this is my go-to. I would make scarves with them, hats, anything where you're just working one thing at a time is really good. If you need to work two things at a time, like 2 socks, 2 sleeves, or arm warmers, or gauntlets, or gloves, or, you know, whatever you want to call them. I do not recommend you using double pointed. So that's the only time I would say don't do it. Because you can't really work 2 at a time. If you were going to work with 2 needles, just 2 needles, and have like the third one be the working needle, you could manage doing 2 at a time on a pair of double pointeds. I don't recommend it because it's going to be difficult and a pain in the ass, really. But technically it's possible. The other thing is, you would need like an 8 or a 10-inch double pointed needle. And again, 10-inch double pointed needles, you don't find them terribly often. And if you're going to use an 8-inch one, like, you're also really better off basically treating it like a straight and putting a stopper on one end, so you don't have to worry about accidentally shoving the stitches off. There's that. Now I want to challenge this theory. It's not a good idea, but I'm hard-headed, so there's that. But it is technically possible. I would definitely, and it would be like better for something like a sleeve, anything where you're working with something with a smaller weight yarn would be better. I wouldn't want to do this with something that was worsted or heavier, because that yarn and the space which it takes up on the needle would just be really obnoxious, and it would be way too easy, even for someone who was mindful and conscientious, to accidentally shove some stitches off. And while that's not the end of the world, it's not really what you want to be doing with your time. So yeah, there's definitely still my preference for hats. I've yet to make a hat or finish a hat with magic loop. I don't know that I ever will. I don't mind them for arm warmers either, because arm warmers generally are from like here to here. They're not terribly long, so working them one at a time, I don't. The whole thing for working 2 at a time is so that you finish both of them, because a lot of times when it comes to a sock or a sleeve, like, you're knitting forever. Okay, case in point. Oh goodness, you're knitting forever. And if you had to knit this long sock, right, because you're me and you're weird, and then you had to make another one, you're not going to do it. Also, you don't have to keep track of where you are. Like, if you work a whole round around these needles, then both socks have the same. I know we're not talking about circulars, I know, but circulars are going to come up in a discussion about double pointeds. But if you work around the whole needles, you know that an entire round has been worked on both things versus you having to count them. So like that would be the case for doing that. But, yeah. And again, like I said, I've used them. I like them for skinny scarves. Those are good. I think I used them. I might have used them for these thick and chunky scarves I had, just so the gauge was the same, because I used the same needles for the hats. About like yay big. This wasn't too bad. I think that's what I used. I don't have any pictures of me working on them, so I'm not 100% sure. But, yeah. So, that's it. If you'd like to see pictures of my double pointed C's, these, and the other ones that I did not show you, because I'm not going to pull them out of the case because I don't want to, then you can scroll into the post below. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that link at the very top and it'll send you over to Patreon where you can see. My question for you today is, do you have any double pointed needles? Have you ever used them? Do you have a brand or material that you like, or do you hate them? Because people feel really strongly about double pointeds. Some people are just damn near scared of them. And look, if you know how to use a tool and you have the patience to like respect how it wants to be used and like be mindful of that, you're good to go. But a lot of people don't have the confidence when they get started, or they're really worried. And your knitting is going to change from when you start to a year later, to a year after that, to a year after that. Especially if you're like me and you knit all the freaking time. And if you knit all the time, you're going to develop a confidence a lot sooner. So, that's like a whole thing. But yeah. Let's see. Is it? I will put links to all of them I could find. The newest ones, which are metal, that I just bought, that are actually also sock size. Those I know I could find, and I could find the knit picks. These wooden ones, however, I think I bought them somewhere else, but I'm not sure if that place exists. But I did find them again somewhere else, so I'll link to those if I can find it. If I can't find it, my bad. So, as always, I've got my websites linked below, Radia's Hand and Janae's Divine, in case you would like to check out the other work that I do, some of my art, some of the magic that I offer for people, as well as my active social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, where I like to hang out the most. And because you stayed to the end of this video, you get to hear what we're going to talk about tomorrow, which is, drum roll, it's Monday, it's 10th. It's Monday motivation. Whether I'm going to be motivated tomorrow or not is another thing entirely. Remember, I'm coming to you from the past. And so while I'm in a perky, jolly mood right now, I can't guarantee that I will be tomorrow. So we'll see. That being said, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this video. If you're watching this on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and consider heading over to Patreon to become a patron so that you can help me do more free videos like this, because, support matters. And, yeah, that's good. And for my people on Patreon already who are watching this, thank you so much. You're awesome. I know that you know that you're awesome, but I'm going to tell you anyway. And being a patron means you are helping support me do these videos, as well as getting some really cool stuff that I don't do anywhere else. So yeah, good place to be. That being said, sweetlings, it is time for me to go. Have a wonderful day. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, and goodbye. And I will see you, hopefully bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, tomorrow. Toodles!